Hi, I'm Jessica Rector, host and founder of This Man Thing, where we help men be authentic through their communication, thoughts, and actions. We help them play bolder, think bigger, and be better in order to gain more freedom, confidence, and success. You can find out more about us at thismanthing.com, and you can also join our free Facebook group at thismanthing.com/groups, where men are having real conversations and building much needed community support and camaraderie with other men. My guest today is Neil Bruce, who's a guitarist, composer, sound designer, producer, and educator. Through his varied career, he has bridged the gap between creativity and technology. He's passionate about breaking away from the corporate career of 9 to 5, and he hosts a podcast about making life work as a creative. He's been playing for over 30 years and has been fortunate enough to have gigged around the world and had his guitar playing featured on numerous recordings, TV, film, and in corporate jingles. He also has a book out, and he has a very active YouTube channel. Please help me give a warm welcome to Neil Bruce. Woo! Thanks for being here.
It's great to be with you today.
Awesome. It's a pleasure to have you, Neil. So tell us a little bit about you and your background and how you got started playing.
It's just very simple. Music was a part of my life from very early on, and I'm just completely was passionate about music, and I knew I had to do something with music. Life didn't always go that way. I ended up doing some kind of corporate career things that, you know, the expected things that you were supposed to do. But it just pulled me back. I had to come back to it. And now I'm really passionate about making it work. It's a tough industry being a creative. So there are ways of doing it. There are ways of making it work. And I'm really focused in that and then trying to educate people as well about, if you're passionate about something, be it music, art, photography, writing, you name it, even business, you can do it. We're in a great age. We've got all this fantastic technology. You can do it, and you've got to believe in yourself.
So tell us a little bit about what the journey looked like for you, because there's men out there who maybe want to be more creative. And here's what I believe. I don't know your thoughts on this, but I believe that we're all creative to a certain extent, right? But it's how much were we encouraged to be creative? How much were we supported when we were younger and we said, no, I'd rather draw than go play soccer? How much are we supported in that and encouraged to take that route? So I think we're all creative. It's just about us giving ourselves permission to tap into that creativity.
Very much. This is something I'm really very, very passionate about. I lecture, I teach, I give workshops. And like I said earlier, I do a podcast because I believe we are all creative. It doesn't matter what, if you're an accountant, you are being creative. It's kind of educated out of you. Educated out both men and women, that it's something, it's just fun. If you're a great artist or you're a great writer, you think, well, that's not art, that's just my job. I just mess around with numbers. I develop accountancy system. I develop web systems. I'm a technician. No, you're a creative. Because you still have to be creative in that role. You don't really realize it, because if you have a problem, say you're designing a website and there's a problem, what do? You come up with a solution, and a solution is a creative response to a problem. So
I love that viewpoint. I love that.
So, and again, you really hit the nail on the head where you said, it's kind of educated out of us, unfortunately. We don't allow children in the education system now. We're very much focused on training them to go into careers, set kind of careers, which are the good careers, because, you want to go and work in a big bank, or you want to go and work for a big corporation. We're going to teach you to be a desk monkey, sit in a cubicle and not really think outside the box. We kind of pay lip service to it because you go on a training day and it'll be let's think outside the box today, and you have a great time and everyone's really enthusiastic. Go back to the office. No, you can't be thinking about that. I think education is sometimes afraid of it as well, because it doesn't fall into a systematic way of being able to grade things. How do you grade a kid who's really good at art? You could say that's a great piece. You can't put a numeric value on it. And we love stats today. We love to say that's right, tick, 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 you've got 100%. But with art, what's 100% in art? What's 100% as a photo?
But you know, Neil, that brings up the point that I have a friend who has a daughter who's dyslexic. And she says, I don't like standardized tests because my daughter's really smart, but because she's dyslexic, she doesn't do well on standardized tests. It's the same, like as soon as you were talking about like art and how do you grade people on art, it just brought up that for me. So it doesn't mean that our kids aren't talented or aren't smart or aren't skilled because they choose to like art or music or drama more so than accounting, numbers, science, those kind of things. But yet it comes back to, it's all about a grading system.
It is, and I find it shocking because I lecture as well, and I have my degree. I've got a PhD in an acoustics, so I'm kind of a science guy as well.
Yeah.
And because science, though, at the end of the day, is creative. People don't realize it. And I'm fortunate enough to work with a variety of different students, and some of them do have special learning needs, and they're the ones who are gifted. And I feel terrible because they are put in a kind of box, and you have skills outside of that. Just because you can't pass this test doesn't mean that you aren't worth something, because you bring so much more. And it's usually people, I find, perhaps going into university or a college system where you are told that you've got to pass these exams, but you're being really creative, and we crush that because you're saying you need to pass this test. And I've advised people in the past erroneously and got in trouble for this by saying, you know what, you don't belong here. That's not saying you're not smart. That's not saying you're not intelligent. Completely the opposite. You are talented. And you should take that talent and take the money you are spending to try and achieve something which doesn't really fit in, and spend it on equipment. Go out and start your own thing.
Yeah.
And you'll be 3 years down the line of those people coming out trying to get onto the ladder. You're already doing it.
Wow.
And you can find people to help you in this wonderful internet age who can really provide the support. Yeah, you don't maybe need not to know how to be an accountant. You can go on Upwork or something and find an accountant. Or there are solutions. And it is really tough. And I believe everyone is talented, and people just don't see it in themselves as well.
So why is that?
Again, I think it's part of a kind of cultural shift, maybe from, the Industrial Revolution happening in the 50s, and this kind of aspirational society that we live in. It's like, you need to be keeping up with the Joneses. I feel that, which is why I was really, really grateful to be able to talk to you, because what you're doing, I feel men as well also slip out of this, because we have to fulfill a role.
I think men slip out of it more than women slip out of it, actually.
Definitely, because it's also, why would you want to be creative? That's a kind of, I don't mean to be, that's a kind of girl thing.
Yeah.
Why would you want to sing? That's a girl. It's like, no, it's a creative thing. It's what's
tell that to like Bruce Springsteen, though, or Elton John, or any male who is loving what they're doing and impacting the world in a bigger way through creativity, right? Van Gogh, I mean, just different types, like tons the male actors out there. I mean, tell them that it's...
I mean, I'll give you just an anecdote from my life, is particularly in the UK, and I know it's the same in America in terms of sports, and, we have football, soccer, slightly different between the two places, but it's a big culture. It's a male thing. You do the tribalistic thing if you like a football team, and that's your thing. And I've never really, it's like, I love music. I'm totally engaged in that, and that's what I want to spend my time. I don't follow football. And you get kind of this weird thing that you're not part of the tribe. There's something wrong with you, because you're not meeting the expectation of a guy. You can't have the conversation, what's your football team? And you just go, I don't know, I don't really follow. And they're like, oh my God, there must be something strange about you.
But what's so interesting about that, Neil, is what would the world be like without music? So these guys love listening to music. And guess what? These guys admire the guys up on stage playing a guitar, right? They admire the guy. They sit there and say, gosh, I wish I could jam like that. I wish I could get down, play guitar like that. But when it actually comes to following it and doing it, it's a different story. Why do you think that is?
I think there's probably two reasons. If you take the music example, perhaps because the learning process it's a longer process. It's not something you can achieve really with strength and a lot of male attributes. It's using a different part of your brain which needs to be trained. And if you don't get quick results, and I think guys particularly do like to get quick results when they get frustrated, and then they put it to the side. It's like, I haven't got the time to concentrate, and I'm not a master within 30 seconds. I can master how to hit a nail into a piece of wood, or how to kick a football quite quickly. Maybe a bit disingenuous to football players, but you know, it takes years to do some of these skills. Photography, and it's very much the language around it as well. It's very emotive language. It's not like kick or hit, or it's very much about beauty and emotion. And so,
okay, not to compare it to women, but when you're sitting there saying that, I'm thinking, yes, however, it takes years to figure out, if you ever do figure out women, but years to, like, you know, develop a relationship with women and how to date and how, you know, and that's not about hitting and kicking and blah, blah, you know, that, but why is that? They don't have a problem going after that like they would, let's say, music or something else like that. Well, I mean, that may not be a good analogy, but that's immediately what came to my mind is like, okay, yeah, but yet it takes years to figure women out or to date women to know how to do that, and they still do that.
I guess maybe the analogy is a little bit, because I could give an obvious answer, which I won't do because this is a podcast. But, you know, we all like women. That's, you know, as part of nature, you know, we like, well, you know, love women. So there's an end goal there, I think, as well. Maybe it's part of the alpha male psyche of wanting to claim a woman and, you know, take a woman on and own her, which is a horrible thing to say. But I think with certain men, that's the goal. Whereas music or photography or filmmaking or even writing a book, what's the end goal? What does it make me achieve apart from, and also it shows that from a male perspective, I guess it's putting your emotions out there for others to judge. And it's easy to be a big brick wall of a guy and not, you know, you probably find this, and I've read, you know, a lot of your posts, guys saying, I can't, you know, have trouble opening up, and music in a sense is just a direct line into you.
But that's also fulfillment. I mean, you say, what's the end goal of all those things? The end goal is fulfilling yourself. I mean, I believe that, you know, there's so many men in today's society who have led the life of what it takes to, quote unquote, be the epitome of a man, right? Like, I've done what I said. I went to college, graduated, climbed the corporate ladder, and guess what? They're left completely unfulfilled and miserable.
Well, I mean, that was my realization. Going back to, sorry, to bring it back to me for a second, but I was 27 years old. I fell into kind of IT. It was the kind of internet boom. I had some IT skills from something I picked up at the degree, and the music thing wasn't quite working out. And then I saw that all these amazing salaries, and I thought, if I earn really well doing IT, I can build my studio, and it'll great. But you can't do two things at the same time. And I just remember, you know, I had a great job. I worked for Dell, which are based, you know, not a million miles away from where you are. And, you know, it was awesome. And corporate credit, all the things, all the accoutrements you get with that job. And I just remember being young, sat in my nice house with my nice car. And I just sat on the floor and I just went, I'm not happy. I am really, really unhappy. And why am I doing this? And I thought to myself, I'm doing this to impress other people. And it's almost like the line from Fight Club, you know, you buy stuff to impress people you don't even like.
Wow. That's powerful. You're like making my eyes like, oh, tearing up. That's powerful to sit in that moment, because I'm just picturing you sitting on the floor and having that realization. I mean, that's powerful. What'd you do next?
Well, it was also just tied as well as, unfortunately, losing one or two friends very early on in life, you know, and you just think, this is it. This is all I've got. Why am I wasting it doing this, putting all this energy into something that makes me blatantly unhappy? Wow. I did slip up and fall back into it again. later in life because that's how life goes sometimes. But you know, I then had to escape again because it is easy. You get the paycheck.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry. It is easy, but you've got to believe in what you're doing. And the way you feel, and this is what I'd say to kind of all men, you have got an expectation, and the expectation is you do this thing and you become the head of a family, and you go to family and you've got to look after your wife, and you've got to look after your kids, and you've got to have a great car, and they've got to go to a good school. Well, the world is a school. You know, I see people I talk to on my podcast who are out there in the world, and maybe that's the other extreme, but they're traveling with their kids. They're making it work through online resources, online earning, like a digital nomad kind of thing.
Yeah.
They're giving kids another experience of life with a lot less. And it's not about money, it's about experience.
And that in itself, I could go on forever about that in itself, because I'm all about experience as opposed to material things. I would way rather have an experience than have the latest gadget or the fanciest car, or because I'm all about experience. And I think that makes us more well-rounded people, right? It doesn't keep us in our little bubble and in our little box and in our little comfort zone, and it helps us become better versions of ourselves. When we stretch us, when we do things we're not used to, when we go to different cultures, when we try completely different experiences to say, oh my gosh, I will not do that again, or oh my gosh, I love that, I gotta do that again.
It is, and very simple. You can even break it down even to a small, what do you remember in a day? You remember like the 10-minute conversation you had over a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And some people, yeah, they do remember buying certain bits and pieces, but it's very rare. If you talk to people who are very materialistic and not on that level, they don't really remember. They get a little buzz that lasts for 5 minutes, and then it's over. It's almost the act of buying is the buzz.
Yeah, because if you sit there and think about, okay, well, what did I get? Oh my God, I really wanted something when you were 8. You really wanted something for, you know, Christmas or your birthday or whatever. And then you look back and you're like, I have no idea what I got. I can't even remember what I got last year for anything, you know, and I think it's deflating, right? You get it and it's like, okay, great. And then what's next? Experiences, moments you remember.
It is, and you reflect back and you reflect. And when you go out with your friends and you talk about your memories of your joint experiences, you don't really talk about the stuff you own.
Yeah, that's so true.
We put so much priority on the stuff, which leads us into this kind of expectation of a role that we need to have to fulfill so we can buy this stuff to impress these people. But the people that you're trying to impress, if they're impressed by what you own, then I would personally say, and I can, you know, sure other people have different opinions, but I don't want to be, you know, if you don't like who I am and what I do, you like me because I've got an iPad. That's not a relationship.
They're not worth having in your life. Right there with you. Like, next, you can just eliminate them from your life, because it's not even a real relationship. If the only reason why you're talking to me is because I have the latest gadget or fancy car or whatever, like, that's not anything. So tell us about these expectations that you find that people place on men, and how men are or are not living up to them, and how they can listen more to themselves and not to living up to expectations.
Well, I think on general, it's the culture that we've had. And again, I think it comes out of perhaps, you know, the 80s, particularly with all, you know, the films like Wall Street, and like this idea that we are kind of, men now have to be executive leaders. They have to be managers. They've got to be doing this kind of heading something to prove your point. It's proved by how in control you are of doing this job, this daily churn. And you talk to so many guys, or the guys I talk to, and if they're honest, when they, you know, maybe you have a few drinks and they, you know, that little bit of honesty comes out, they will say, you know, I'm unhappy. And then they'll talk to someone like me, because a lot of my friends as well, to begin with, just thought I was mad. This was the expectation. How can you give up, you know, knowing that you can pay the rent in a month's time? How can you give up that security? And I think as well, it's like, well, as a man, surely we're supposed to be hunter-gatherers. You know, we go out there and do stuff, and that's all I do. You haven't got work, you go out there and you get it.
Yeah.
And you're happy because you're in control of everything. And I find that the kind of expectation as well around family, that if you're having a family, you're the lead, you can't be doing something that's a bit crazy. If you've got a wife and children and a house, how can you be out there and not doing something to secure that you're going to be in a job for a long time? Another realization I had, which is happening unfortunately to a lot of people in this current climate, happened to me, it's happened to me a few times over my kind of corporate life, is the redundancy thing. And these guys are in a mindset of like, I'm in my job, I'm paying the mortgage, I got this lovely house, I got it, and everything's cool. Then one day they're going to work, bam, you're out. They're laying people off, and their world comes crashing down because they've got this expectation that they are the breadwinner, the expectation that they've got this job and it's good and it's going to be secure. Ain't nothing secure.
Yeah, it's true.
And so being a bit more mindful, being a bit more creative, and being a bit more embracing who you are as a man, you can go out there. And I'm encouraging men not to have the fear. It's like the irony being like, they're big, strong alpha male types and they're all high-fiving in bars and, they've got that fear that they're going to lose that job and then they can't do anything. Yet the converse is true. They could be in that bar getting as much work as they possibly wanted from their network.
But what about the men that say, oh my gosh, that sounds great, I want to do that? My spouse, on the other hand, will not support that. She will not support me, quitting my job where I make $250,000 or whatever and go to do music. She thinks I'm nuts that I even want to do music.
That's a really very crucial point, and it is the norm. I think a lot of that expectation, again, it also is not necessarily the spouse as well, it will be the family. It's like, my family have supported me through college and they've paid me and they've helped me. It would be a kick in the teeth if I threw this great £250,000 job a year away. I'd be insulting them. I found this from talking to my own mother, that her expectation for me, I had the mental image that was her expectation. I had a good job and she was proud. My mum said to me, I just want you to be happy.
Wow.
That's all I've ever wanted. But going back to the point of a spouse, I mean, it is a bit of a can of worms. I'm really fortunate. My partner is 100%, 110% supportive of what I do. I know that's not the case for everyone, and it's a difficult conversation, but I ultimately think, and maybe I'm a little bit of a kind of hippie Buddhist thing coming out, like, maybe you're with the wrong person if they don't support. If they love you, which is what a loving relation, they want you to be happy just like you want them to be happy. And it's about having conversations between you, going, you know what, honey, I'm not happy. I'd love to do this. I'd really love to do this. Can we talk about it? Let's find a compromise. Maybe I'll do 4 days a week because this is really important. This is my life. And without sounding too selfish, I don't want to cause anyone to break up or anything, but we're all independent. We've all got our own. The worst thing, and the thing that always sticks in my mind was something I read in a book or a lecture. Imagine what's written on your grave. What are people saying about you at your wake, at your funeral? Yeah. He was a great fund manager. Or he really did.
Funny. That's funny.
He went out there and he took life by the balls, and he did it. He did it his way and he made it work. And yeah, he didn't have a BMW or whatever, but he had a car, his family, everyone was happy. They're a great group.
But here's the thing. I am not a hippie woman by any means. And I totally agree with you. I believe if you are not in a partnership where the person supports you, you're probably in the wrong partnership. And I'm not saying that, but I also don't believe that we as women need to rely on men to provide for us. Because if that was the case, I would never be provided for because I'm not married and I don't have a partner, right? And so we as women need to be able to provide for ourselves. So if we are in a partnership and our husband says, hey, honey, I'm going to quit this job because I want to find my passion. I want to fulfill my heart's desire. And she needs to be willing to also say, great, what does that look like? Let's talk that through. What does that look like? How can I best support you? So does that mean I haven't been to work in 10 years and I need to go back to work? Awesome. We'll make it happen, because I wholeheartedly believe that every individual, even in a relationship, you're people first. So you're a woman first, you're a man first before you're a husband or a partner or a dad or a mom or whatever. And you have to be happy first if you are wanting to give and serve and create that space in your environment. So with the relationships that you have, to help make other people happy. You cannot be give. And I think men are very guilty of this, of giving and never practicing self-care. I don't even think, actually, I know men don't even know what self-care is. The men that I've talked to, they're like, what does that look like? Because they don't practice it. They're not taught that it's important, and they need, and I don't think it's selfish. You have to give to yourself and do for yourself before you can give and do for other people. I just think it's a basic, fundamental foundation of humanity that people overlook.
The analogy for me is your idea. You pretty much said everything I wanted to say. I totally agree with you, Paul. Just on that last point of, it's the plane analogy. The plane's going down, the masks drop down.
Yeah.
You put your own mask on first, and then you help other people. You've got to look after yourself first, and then everyone around you. If you're in a good place, if you're happy, everyone else will be happy.
Yes. And here's the thing, though, Neil. I think that people listening may think, Jessica, that's completely selfish. How are you saying to do that? Because we've been wired to think it's selfish. You know, I'm a single mom to a 4-year-old boy. And let me tell you, if I did not take care of me first, I would have no patience. I would not want to be making dinner. I wouldn't want to be engaged. I wouldn't want to be actively present because I would be irritated. I'd be frustrated, you'd go off the handle a little bit more, whatever that looks like in your life. But if you give to yourself, you also are give yourself permission to be more actively present for the people in your lives. You've got to fill your cup up first before you can do that.
And it's kind of catching. It's endemic. It bounces off. You're the light, and then light attracts itself to you. And
yes.
it is very important. I slightly lost my train of thought. I was thinking of light. It's about compromise. I'm not saying, and again, I talked about this in my post, I'm not advocating throw your job away. It's about open dialogue with your partner. And as you said as well, what kind of relationship, if the person, be it male, female, male, female, it doesn't matter. If that person goes, you're going to give up your job and you won't be able to pay for this stuff, there's a problem there.
Yes.
And it isn't you saying, I'm going to follow my passion 100% without thinking about you. It's like, no, as you said, let's open up a dialogue. Let's see how I can support you to do what you want to do. And conversely, I've had a dream as well.
Yeah.
Let's both do it. Let's both be dreamers. And we've got a story then. We've got a tale. We've got a life. Our kids hopefully will be inspired by what we're doing. Our family will be inspired. Yes. Our friends will be inspired because we're taking life, the bull by the horns and doing it. And it might not be 100% like, I'm going to be a musician, I'm going on tour for a year. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe that's a step too far. I've got this opportunity, I'm going to do this, and then I'll come back and I'll support you for 6 months while you do what you're going to do, and we'll make it work, and we'll talk. And ultimately, I think that makes the relationship stronger. You're not going to break that bond because you're both invested in your lives, and like you said, you're both present.
Mm-hmm.
Not relying on someone to give you stuff.
Exactly. So how, but I think that also goes back to expectations we have of our partner. A lot of women have the expectation that the man's going to provide, and then the man has the expectation, well, great, so now I've got to stay in this job, and that comes back to communication. But also going back to the conversation that you had with your mom, that I asked her and she said, I just want you to be happy. And maybe that if you haven't had that conversation with your spouse of you pursuing what you're really passionate about, that maybe your spouse just wants you to be happy, and she thinks that you work in this corporate job is happiness to you. So it's about opening that conversation up to expectations as well. And I always believe, Neil, that why are you trying to live up to other people's expectations? Why are other people's expectations more important than your own opinions, right? Than how you feel and what you want for yourself and your own fulfillment?
Well, definitely. I speak to so many people, friends, colleagues, who open up a little bit. It takes time for people to open. I think that's the thing. They're just scared of having that conversation because of some of the things we talked about earlier about their roles, their expectations, and also kind of, I guess, in relationships as they get longer, you've got that you've defined a role for yourself.
Yeah.
And you're suddenly, and it takes a lot of courage to say, you know what, I want to talk to you again. You remember like when we were first going out together and we shared all our dreams, and then we kind of just got onto this routine, the 9 to 5,
Yeah.
the 9 to 5 relationship kind of routine. It's like, we need to have that talk again. Remember, let's go and take a walk along the beach in the sun. Let's be romantic and let's just talk. And almost like reconfigure, reboot.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. And also when you do that, you're not in the place of stuckness, right? You don't feel stuck and unhappy. So what's one thing that they can do, these men can do if they're wanting to be more creative, if they want to instill more creativity in their children, which I think is a big deal. I think men need to acknowledge their own creativity in order to instill that in children.
Yeah, I think one thing you can do right now, I mean, an exercise I like to do is a mind mapping technique, which is just get a big piece of white paper, no thought process in it at all, and just start writing words on it, things you like. Just start writing them down on a bit of paper.
I love it.
It starts to come out, and what things interest you, what things you like. Think back to you at school. I encourage adults to think back to when they were at school. What did you do? You know, in those kind of early years when you weren't doing SATs or doing all these tests, when you were like, I'm just painting stuff all over the place, or I'm drawing a cow next to a moon, or, you know.
Yeah.
What doing? Think back to what really did you do without effort? That's another thing as an adult. What do you do without effort? You know, sometimes we might sit down and we might just be doodling, and you do something without effort. Embrace
that. Oh, I love that.
What can you lose? You know, men, I guess traditional men, they might go and sit in a shed somewhere and they do all the traditional thing like fishing or whatever.
Yeah.
It's kind of karmic in a sense. It's like a meditation. For me, it's like playing guitar. Time disappears. What do you do? And it could be watching TV. It could be reading a book. It could be listening to music. It could be making something out of wood or cutting down, you know, being a real man and cutting down a tree. If you get in that, what gets you in there is like, write it down on a piece of paper, not in a logical order, and then write things. I like fishing, but I also like sitting by the lake. I like sitting by a certain lake. And how do you feel when you're there? And it gives you a picture of, hopefully, like I say, the one thing you can do. It's not an easy task.
Yeah.
You might do it, nail it in 5 minutes, but it might take you a year. Just give you an inner picture of who you are. And if you are going to have a conversation with a spouse or a family, or you've got a story now, you've got an idea.
Yeah.
Saying, look, all this stuff came out of me, and you'll be surprised what will come out.
Yeah.
But then it's like, I think I need to, this is me.
Yeah.
This is who I am, and I want to share this with the world.
I love that. You know, another thing that came up when you were talking about that for me is also for the men who have children to really encourage children in their creativity. So don't, you know, instruct your child to draw a cow, you know, brown or black and white, but if he draws the cow pink or orange or whatever, like, that's okay. Don't do a puzzle the way you would do a puzzle. That was a big light bulb moment for me. My son has this alphabet puzzle, and the letters go horizontally, A, B, C, D, E, and then the next line is F, G, H. Well, so I said, okay, well, let's do a puzzle. So I said, what's the first letter? And so it's the alphabet, and he said A, and then I said, okay, well, what's the next piece? And he grabbed F, which was the one vertical from A. And I said, no, that's not the next letter. The next letter is B. And so we kept doing that. And what I found out is he was doing the puzzle vertically. I was doing it horizontally because I was going through the alphabet. So after the third time, I said, you know what? Okay, you do the puzzle and let mommy watch. Because what I realized is I was trying to train him my way instead of just saying, and guess what? The puzzle got done. And he did it his way. So he did it vertically, didn't do it horizontally, and the puzzle. And so the end result was still the same. But I think we as parents try to control situations and try and get kids to do it our way, right? If we're not into art and music, then our kids aren't going to be into art and music unless we encourage them.
very quick anecdote from me. I can give you an example of myself and mathematics. We were taught at school, you learn your times tables, 2 times 2, 3 times 2, except, and you wrote and you just learn it. I never did it that way. I did it my own way, but I never had the courage to tell anyone until I was 33. And I was just randomly talking to someone at an academic conference. And we're talking about learning and pedagogy and things of ways of learning. And I said, yeah, we did all that stuff at school, but I've got my own method of doing it. And I said, I've never told anyone. And he goes, what is it? And I said, well, I do it in blocks. I see blocks, I know like up to 5, and then I add and subtract from the block of 25, or like 6 5s is 5 5s, 25 plus 1 5, 30.
Very interesting.
And he goes, straight off, he went, that's how I do it. And he goes, did you know that they teach that in schools now? And I'm like, no, it's got it. And it's like, I've kept quiet about it all my life because I thought it was strange. We've all got, I mean, the perfect education system would almost be a one-to-one where you just listen to the child.
Yeah. And
as a teacher, you point them. You don't tell them it's wrong. You just point them in a direction.
Yeah.
And almost let them figure it out for themselves, but with guidance.
Yes. Yes. And I think that's brilliant, you know, and we were doing it, my son and I were doing another puzzle the other day, and I'm like, oh, let's do all the outside pieces first. And he was like, no, mommy, this is green, this is Hulk. I need to finish Hulk first. And Hulk wasn't an outside piece at all. So I just let him do it. And he did the puzzle by himself. And I was like, okay, Jessica, sometimes you just need to back off, you know, and we don't need to always have it our way, especially when children are learning and growing. And our way is not always the best way. Just because we're parents, you know, doesn't mean mommy and daddy know best. No, sometimes they really don't.
And flipping it the other way as well, you've got like, if the child isn't creative, because it can happen those way, you know, like you're going to play the piano and they're sitting there like, hey, I just want to sit and solve puzzles and do maths. It's not just about being creative. It's just what the child just wants to feel like doing.
But I think even doing puzzles is creative because you have to use your brain to, like you said, solve a problem, right? But your way of doing it may be totally different than someone else's way of doing it. You know, and you've got to, and I think in some ways you've got to show your creativity in doing things like that.
Everything is creative. Even if you're writing a boring email to fire someone as a react, you're being creative with your use of language. You're having
that is true.
You can probably go through every, you know, even being a firefighter.
Every task.
Fire is different.
But here's the thing. I think there's stigma related to saying that.
Yeah, probably.
You know, that's why a lot of men don't acknowledge it or dive into it because there's like men and creativity. I don't know. You know,
I've sat with people and you go, "What's your job?" And they'll tell me that whatever they're doing, and you go, "Yeah, but that is creative." And then almost like you said, the light bulb moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm having to address something I've never done before. That's creative.
That's creative. There you go.
That's creative. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Neil. So tell us how we can find out more about you and how we can connect with you.
Yeah, you can find me online at www.spencerbruce.com. Also on Facebook at Spencer Bruce Music. I have a YouTube channel if you're into guitar lessons and kind of general creativity. And that's Light Before Sound. Unfortunately, the spelling of that's a little bit tricky, which is it's light and then B and the number 4 sound.
Awesome.
Yeah, if you go to the website, everything's there anyway. And my podcast is There Is Another Way. And that's, you know, just Google There Is Another Way and it'll pop up for you. And it's on iTunes. Yeah.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
It's been a real pleasure. It's been really exciting.
Again, I'm Jessica Rector, host and founder of This Man Thing, where we help men be authentic through their communication, thoughts, and actions to play bolder, think bigger, and be better in order to gain more freedom, confidence, and success. You can find us at thismanthing.com or join our free Facebook group at thismanthing.com/groups and join the real conversations men are having and building community support and camaraderie. Connect with me at Jessica at thismanthing.com or you can join us on Facebook as well. You can actually find me on any social media, but I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, and you can just find me under This Man Thing. Until next time, have a wonderful, fabulous day. Thanks so much for joining us.